Jeremy. Today's day 145 of reading. Today we're reading Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Let's get started. BDW, if you're watching this, please spam the comments with "let me post gaming videos." I swear to God, my mom doesn't let me, but I feel like it would be really fun. Anyways, let's get started. We're on page 116. "That's it," said Harry. "That's it, Harry. Now bow." Harry didn't feel much like exposing the back of his neck to Buckbeak, but he did as he was told. He gave a short bow and then looked up. The hippogriff was still staring haughtily at him. It did move. "Ah," said Hagrid, sounding worried. "Right, back away now, Harry. Easy does it." But then, to Harry's enormous surprise, the hippogriff suddenly bent its scaly front knees and sank what was an unmistakable bow. "Well done, Harry," said Hagrid, ecstatic. "Right, you can touch him. Pat his beak. Go on." Feeling that a better reward would have been to back away, Harry moved slowly toward the hippogriff and reached out toward it. He patted the beak several times, and the hippogriff closed its eyes lazily, as though enjoying it. The class broke into an applause, all except for Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle, who were looking deeply disappointed. "Right then, Harry," said Hagrid. "I reckon he might let you ride him." This was more than Harry had bargained for. He was used to a broomstick, but he wasn't sure a hippogriff would be quite the same. "You climb up there, just behind the wing joint," said Hagrid, "and mind you don't pull any of his feathers out. He won't like that." Harry put his foot on top of Buckbeak's wing and hoisted himself onto its back. Buckbeak stood up. Harry wasn't sure where to hold on. Everything in front of him was covered with feathers. "Go on," roared Hagrid, slapping the hippogriff's hindquarters. Without warning, 12-foot wings flapped open on either side of Harry. He just had enough time to seize the hippogriff around the neck before he was soaring upward. It was nothing like a broomstick, and Harry knew which one he preferred. The hippogriff's wings beat uncomfortably on either side of him, catching him under his legs and making him feel he was about to be thrown off. The glossy feathers slipped under his fingers, and he didn't dare get a stronger grip. Instead, the smooth action of his Nimbus 2000, he now felt himself rocking backward and forward as the hindquarters of the hippogriff rose and fell with its wings. Buckbeak flew him once around the paddock and then headed back to the ground. This was the bit Harry had been dreading. He leaned back as the smooth neck lowered, feeling he was going to slip off over the beak, then felt a heavy thud as the 4 ill-assorted feet hit the ground. He just managed to hold on and push himself straight again. "Good work, Harry!" roared Hagrid, as everyone except Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle cheered. "Okay, who else wants a go?" Emboldened by Harry's success, the rest of the class climbed cautiously into the paddock. Hagrid untied the hippogriffs one by one, and soon people were bowing nervously all over the paddock. Neville ran repeatedly backward from his, who didn't seem to want to bend its knees. Ron and Hermione practiced on the chestnut, while Harry watched. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle had taken over Buckbeak. He had bowed to Malfoy, who was now patting his beak, looking disdainful. "This is very easy," Malfoy drawled. Loud enough for Harry to hear him. "I knew it must have been. If Potter could do it. I bet you're not that dangerous, are you?" he said to the hippogriff. "Are you, you great ugly brute?" It happened in a flash of stealing talons. Malfoy let out a high-pitched scream, and next moment Hagrid was wrestling Buckbeak back into his collar as he strained to get at Malfoy, who lay curled into the grass, blood blossoming over his robes. "I'm dying!" Malfoy yelled as the class panicked. "I'm dying! Look at me! It's killed me!" "You're not dying," said Hagrid, who had gone very white. "Someone help me! Gotta get him out of here." Hermione ran to hold open the gate as Hagrid lifted Malfoy easily. As they passed, Harry saw that there was a long, deep gash on Malfoy's arm. Blood splattered the grass, and Hagrid ran with him, up the slope toward the castle. Very shaken, the Cure of Magical Creatures class followed at a walk. The Slytherins were all shouting about Hagrid. "They should fire him straight away," said Pansy Parkinson, who was in tears. "It was Malfoy's fault," snapped Dean Thomas. Crabbe and Goyle flexed their muscles threateningly. They all climbed the stone steps in the deserted entrance hall. "I'm going to see if he's okay," said Pansy, and they all watched her run up the marble staircase. The Slytherins, still muttering about Hagrid, headed away in the direction of their dungeon common room. Harry, Ron, and Hermione proceeded upstairs to the Gryffindor Tower. "Do you think he'll be all right?" said Hermione nervously. "Course he will. Madame Pomfrey can mend cuts in about a second," said Harry, who had far worse injuries mended magically by the nurse. "That was a really bad thing to happen in Hagrid's first class, though, wasn't it?" said Ron, looking worried. "Trust Malfoy to mess things up for him." They were among the first to reach the Great Hall at dinner time, hoping to see Hagrid, but he wasn't there. "They wouldn't fire them, would they?" said Hermione anxiously, not touching their steak and kidney pudding. "They'd better not," said Ron, who wasn't eating either. Harry was watching the Slytherin table. A large group, including Crabbe and Goyle, was huddled together, deep in conversation. Harry was sure they were cooking up their own version of how Malfoy had been injured. "Well, you can't say it wasn't an interesting first day back," said Ron gloomily. They went up to the crowded Gryffindor common room after dinner and tried to do the homework Professor McGonagall had given them, but all three of them kept breaking off and glancing out of the tower window. "There's a light on in Hagrid's window," Harry said suddenly. Ron looked at his watch. "If we hurried, we could go down and see him. It's still quite early." "I don't know," Hermione said slowly, and Harry saw her glance at him. "I'm allowed to walk across the ground," he said pointedly. "Sirius Black hasn't got past the Dementors yet, has he?" So they put their things away and headed out of the portrait hole, glad to meet nobody on their way to the front door, as they weren't entirely sure they were supposed to be out. The grass was still wet and looked almost black in the twilight. When they reached Hagrid's hut, they knocked, and a voice growled, "Come in." Hagrid was sitting in his shirt sleeves at his scrubbed wooden table. His boarhound, Fang, had his head in Hagrid's lap. One look told them that Hagrid had been drinking a lot. There was a pewter tankard almost as big as a bucket in front of him, and he seemed to have difficulty getting them into focus. "'Spec it's a record," he said thickly, when he recognized them. "Don't reckon they've ever had a teacher who lasted only a day before." "You haven't been fired, Hagrid?" guessed Hermione. "Not yet," said Hagrid miserably, taking a huge gulp of whatever was in the tankard. "But it's only a matter of time, isn't it?" "After Malfoy." "How is he?" said Ron as they all sat down. "It wasn't serious, was it?" "Madame Pomfrey fixed him best she could," said Hagrid dully, "but he's saying it's still agony, covered in bandages, moaning." "He's faking it," said Harry at once. "Madame Pomfrey can mend anything. She regrew half of my bones last year. Trust Malfoy to milk it for all it's worth." Thank everyone. That's all for today. Bye. See you tomorrow.